Yeah, well, actually, you're on my side, right? So you're going to now protect my data, right, against all these hackers out there.
That's what ethical hackers do.
Okay, awesome, good. You're my favorite guest on the show. So, guys, welcoming everyone to House of Experts episode 29. Very special guest, probably our youngest guest ever on the show. Youngest in terms of number of years, but definitely way ahead of his peers at his age. Saket Modi, founder and CEO of Lucidius, a company in the cybersecurity space that's headquartered out of Palo Alto and backed by Cisco CEO John Chambers. Saket is also Forbes 30 under 30, Fortune 40 under 40, and has many, many accolades under his belt. In fact, this afternoon when we were speaking, he also mentioned that he's won the government of India's award for best cybersecurity firm in the country. So congratulations, Saket, yet another feather in your very young hat. So congratulations. And super excited to have you on the show, Saket. Lots to learn from you today. Welcome.
Your voice is cracking, Vibha. I apologize.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I just introduced you and I said lots of feathers under your cap. And I talked about the Government of India award that you just told me about. So congratulations.
Even I spoke. Oh shit. I spoke the best things that I've ever spoken in my life, Vibha. You missed it.
Awesome. All right. So welcome to the show and let's get started, Saket. So as you know, at Reachivy, we are a careers and study abroad organization. And, you know, I really believe like what we do today is obviously a reflection of our early years. So if you don't mind, if you could flash back to early years, what was your childhood like? You know, just take us back to a journey in time and tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Sure, Vibha, considering you said that I'm the youngest, I like to assume that my childhood is still going on.
Absolutely.
I hope that never goes away. Now, you know, I'm born, brought up in Calcutta, and you know, I went to schooling there. I went to Jaipur after that for a college for my computer science engineering. I've been a geek and a nerd all my life. I've been a terrible student. I think most of my teachers remember me for being probably one of the naughtiest one in the class. And I think an easy identification of Saket in the class would be somebody who doesn't sit in the same place for more than 10 seconds. So I was jumping around all the time. I can tell you not a lot has changed over the years. And so that was school days. And then I was a geek and a nerd. I think I was terrible at most of my subjects, but I think I was reasonably good in mathematics and computer science because those were areas that I was pretty passionate about, and got fortunate to get into computer science engineering in my college, and yeah, that was school to college.
How did the love for computer science come through? Was it influenced by a family member, someone? How did you stumble upon computers and technology?
Well, it was actually the other way around, right? I actually have 2 degrees, Vibha. One, I'm a computer science engineer. The second, I'm a Marwadi from Calcutta. So, you know, probably the second one is bigger than the first one. The reason why I say that is because, you know, there are 0 engineers in my family. Most of them are, you know, chartered accountants. They're all, of course, a lot of them are entrepreneurs into the share market and, you know, all of those things. So basically what happened was that we started from the point where, you know, most people were really going ahead and thinking about commerce. Me, when I was in CBSE board, so in my 11th and 12th, when I had to choose between commerce and science and arts, I mean, computer science was something which was always my preference because I love gaming. So,
Right.
really that's it. I like playing computer games. And if you're strong in maths, one of the common things is that you're generally strong in logical reasoning. And
Right.
if you know how the computers work, it's basically a sequence of logical events which happen one after the other. And when you ask them to do something, you know, you know, memory and it's the CPU of your system. That's called a program. So program is basically a logical sequence of events that the programmer wants the system to be performing. So it very naturally was something that I was always happy about, passionate about, and one thing led to the other. Hey, it's going to
Okay.
be computer science. So I got into
Okay, so you enjoyed gaming, you like computer science. You spoke a little bit about, you come from a Marwari family, so high five to that. I come from a business Marwari family as well. And I know what, being born in a Marwari family around entrepreneurs does to you. But I want to hear your view on this. So how do you think that sort of entrepreneurial upbringing influenced you, if at all?
It definitely did. I think, a lot of people ask me this question that, the first time you thought about starting up your business and you asked your parents, what did they say? Was there resistance? I said, no, it was the other way around. Most of them were actually thinking like, this is the reason you were born. You know? So, so I think it's great because, what that comes with, you get to learn how businesses work and a lot of times why they don't work also. You get to learn the old ways of
Mm,
uh, very different way in which organizations, businesses used to run probably, a couple of decades back versus organizations that run today. And, I was always fancied and fascinated by how large businesses in India become large, but they are a very, very minuscule in terms of their revenue, in terms of their market cap. And you actually compare them to their peers in the North American or the Western European region, right? I mean, an Ola is, say, $5 billion, while an Uber is a $50 billion company. Flipkart is
right.
$20 billion, while Apple has become $1 trillion company, right? It's almost the same counterparts, but they're generally 10 to 20 times of what they are.
Sure.
So you get to see that, look, in India, there are some really good organizations. You get to learn what they're doing right, and more importantly, what they're doing wrong.
Wrong.
And then notes to what's going right in the American or the Western European market, you can actually compare those two notes and then put the best of the both worlds together, and then try to come up with something which works out in today's day and age, and hopefully can scale up to the global best.
Okay, awesome. Great thought process there. Keeping your eyes on what's right and on what's wrong. All right, so Saket, what happened next? So you entered this degree college, wanting to study computer science. Did you intern with tech companies? Did you go out there and work with technology companies? What was the journey like?
Yeah, so I was, very clear about the fact that I want to be in technology, not really cybersecurity. I remember the first year where I was always a very lazy student, and I, I had my, I actually bribed my a guy in the college to go ahead and register myself during a, during a summer course. And I said, just go and do it. I'll come a few weeks later because I'm chilling right now, etc., etc. And for some reason, my dean got to know about it, and he actually called me from the guy's number saying, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at home. Don't you know about it?" And then the dean picks up the phone and says, "It's me talking, and I'm just canceling you for the summer, and you don't need to come back and just come back later." The reason I brought that up is that was my first year. I still went back to college. Literally, spent a couple of days outside the cabin of the dean, requesting him to go ahead and allow me for the courses in that summer. Because for me, staying at home for a couple of months without doing something which would excite me, when I say excite me, those days, and I'm talking back in like 2010, 2011, you didn't have the Coursera's and the Udemy's of the world weren't very, very popular. You did have them. There was OCW, you had NPTEL from IITs, but then, it's always good to be learning from the actual teachers. So I requested him of no use, He said, no, nothing doing, you'll not get it. I said, okay, but at least allow me to stay back in campus. And then I still remember that summer where I actually, that's the thing about me, because I was not a, when I had my exams, I used to sleep on an average between 10 to 12 hours, because you need like fresh mind to go to the exams, even though there's hardly times where I used to study things there. But on the other side, the moment the exams used to get over, I would not sleep more than 4 hours, because that's the time when I was programming and learning about cybersecurity, hacking, uh, learning about how hacks work and how security works. And that was generally, so those times when I was there, especially after the exam, which was far more intense and far more fun for me. The exam times were generally. So yeah, that's my went as a as a freelancer to an organization where I was basically going in training people on cybersecurity around the country. So so I went to a lot of colleges in my first, second, third year, and this was 2009, 10, 11, and 2012 I just started this company when I was finally at my engineering.
Okay, so you freelance for a company for a few years, and then you said, I'm gonna go start my own business. How did you sort of chance upon cybersecurity? There's so many things in the field of technology you could have done. Why cybersecurity, and what is cybersecurity? If you had to just define cybersecurity, what is this field?
So why cybersecurity? Before that, let me talk to you about what is cybersecurity. And I think why cybersecurity will come from there. Cybersecurity is required to secure you against hacking, right? Now, the next question becomes that what is hacking, right?
Sure.
According to the Oxford Dictionary, when you make something do that it's not designed to do. So if you use a pen and you tear open, a packet using your pen, you hack it because it was not designed to open the packet.
Okay.
But
okay, let me get that right. So if you get something to do something that it's not designed to do, it's called hacking.
It's as simple as that. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what the series is called, Life Hack. Right?
Okay.
So
all right.
you're making something do that it's not designed to do. In popular terminology, when a hacker goes on a website and writes a few queries and writes a few statements and is able to extract the list of all usernames and passwords of that website,
Right.
you are making do something that it was not originally designed.
Right.
The website is not designed to give out all usernames and passwords.
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
It do that by writing some queries which are uniquely crafted, etc., etc. That, in simple terms, is cyber hacking.
Okay.
Right? Now, how can you make something do that it's not designed? How can you make something do that it's not designed to do? The simple answer to that question, you need to be better than the designer to understand how and what and why that design was done. In other words, if I know exactly that the person who designed this pen, how did he design it, why did he design it, what shape, what size, etc., etc., I can then better twist and bend things with the pen than even the designer of the pen himself.
Okay, so you're saying you got to have an upper leg on the creator itself, huh?
That's what hacking is, right? Because in other words, hacking is all about knowing technology to the absolute first principles. Because you understand the fundamentals, the first principles of how the internet works, how computer science works, how the operating works, how databases work, how applications work, etc., etc., etc. Right? So that is hacking, and that is cybersecurity. That's hacking. So when somebody is interested in computer science, they automatically become a very, very good hacker.
Sure.
I'll give you a parallel. You know who's the greatest hacker according to me of our times in the last 100 years?
No, I
It's
have no idea.
it's Albert Einstein.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. He knew physics, he knew mathematics so very well, that he could see things that normal people like you and I are not able to see. And therefore, he came up with these formulas E equals mc square.
Sure.
Now, the always existed when I existed. I mean, that's
Sure.
a law in nature, right? But on the other side, he came up with things because he knew physics much in depth than what you and I know about.
Okay,
So
sure.
he hack physics and come out and extract insights from it. Exactly in the same way, you've
Uh-huh.
got security. So if I told you that in my school and college days, computer science was of my highest interest, when I go super deep into computer science, how it really works, what happens in the world of computer science, I am naturally able to see things there which most people will miss out.
Sure.
And when I do, automatically you're a hacker, because when you can see more, you can twist and bend things to hack it. And more importantly, if there are others also who are trying to hack it, you know how to secure it.
Okay, perfect. That was a beautiful definition, Saket. Very clear. I'm going to bring in the audience a little bit here. So we have a question from Deepti Shah who asks, Saket, can you help people bring back unverified Instagram accounts once hacked? Is it possible to bring back accounts?
Uh, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the good part of Instagram and Facebook is they actually, do things in a pretty controlled manner. In other words, what they do is that if you're hacked and they understand and they can verify that, because remember, a lot of fake things. In fact, one of the favorite ways of hackers to get an access to your account is to go to Instagram and Facebook and tell them that, oh, this was my account and I've lost access to
Ah,
it,
sure.
right? It's a very difficult job on the Instagram and Facebook side to really know that this is a
Hmm.
genuine person who lost access to the account. So once you do that, and you can prove your identity to them, a lot of times not only do you get back the account, I've seen instances where whatever messages have been sent from your ID can actually be unsent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if it is sent from your ID, some bad
Sure.
messages or whatever, 500 IDs, all of those will be deleted in parallel. I mean, there will be
Okay.
no trace of it. So all of those
Fantastic.
things are
Okay, so Deepti, I hope that answered your question. Saket said it's very much possible. Taking a question here from M. Gur Sahani, who says, Saket, as most data is now moving from on-premise to the cloud, what are the challenges one should be aware of? So challenges of having data on the cloud.
well, on-prem to cloud is a challenge for organizations, right? I think for individuals, the bigger challenge is from on mobile to on cloud, because you used to store your pictures on an SSD, a small micro
Sure.
SSD card, or a hard disk, and now everything's on or Google Drive
Or
or
Google
Dropbox,
Drive, yeah.
whatever you use, right? So I think that's for individuals, and of course your question can be there for enterprise also. Let me answer both of them. Let me start with the first piece where you said, what do you do for on-prem to the cloud for organizations? So for most organizations, right? I mean, I don't know of any company which goes to a complete cloud model. It's always a hybrid model where you actually have certain things on cloud and you have certain things which are on-prem, and you take care of things. Now, if you actually see, there are different kinds of stuff which actually come in the way, starting from if you use a SaaS service, right, which is like a Salesforce or a G
Sure.
Suite or any of the SaaS services, they are actually pretty secured when you talk about the general security norms, that they've actually thoroughly invested in the security side of things. I've actually seen most small companies, it's actually more intelligent to go to SaaS solutions than to go to solutions which are, than to go with your own homegrown solution, because generally more expensive and generally more vulnerable also. So that's
Okay,
the
so
first piece.
so for small businesses, you like SaaS services and you recommend that small businesses should comfortably adapt to and move over to smaller sort of SaaS services to run their enterprises, right?
Absolutely. So that's
Okay, cool.
any. secured than actually, running your own thing, because, unlike physical security, it's actually better out here that you let Amazons and the Googles and the Salesforces of the world handle your security, because frankly, they've been hacked much more, and therefore
Right.
they go a far better understanding of security than probably you will ever have, because, of their investments in cybersecurity. Uh,
Sure, absolutely.
Second piece, which is so that's on the SaaS. Of course, there's the full concept of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Now, if a company goes there, I don't generally recommend that to small and medium businesses, because it's more like getting a data center, but on top of the data center, you got to build something for yourself or on your own, which actually requires certain degrees of skills, certain degrees of competence and things around that. So which is still work in progress, is what I feel, for most small companies, because you don't really have that kind of budgets and things around that. For large companies, of course, it's both, right? You have on-prem, you have on-cloud, etc., etc. So that's there. Now, for individuals, which are actually right now transitioning from, your stuff from, on phone or on hard disk to on cloud. Um, I'm not too worried about the hacking of data on cloud, like somebody hacked into Google to steal your pictures. However, the way you access a Google and a Facebook or a Dropbox or a iCloud, the simple thing you want to ensure is you have two-factor authentication. If you
Okay,
just ensure, that's the route where the hacks happen, where a
I
hacker
see.
gets in your system and learns or install something by which they can monitor your keyboard and find out the whole list of passwords that you're typing. Using those passwords, they can log in and then steal your pictures or something like that. So I highly encourage people to have two-factor authentication. What most people don't realize, just by having two-factor authentication, you can actually take the probability of breach down by more than 90% in
Oh,
most of your
wow.
social. Yeah,
Okay, got
90%.
great. So, guys, you heard Saket, two-factor authentication to sort of keep the hackers away. Saket, I want you to talk to us a little bit about, what is the hack of the hackers? Like, if you had to describe the biggest hack that ever happened, like the money heist of hacking, can you tell us what that would have been? As you know, since you're in this field and you probably know all the biggest hacks that ever happened, what is like something serious that's taken place in this in space?
Yeah, one of the super fascinating hacks that I think I can call it as it was literally a money heist of around $11 million, and it happened not very far off. It actually happened with a bank in Pune, and
Wow. Okay.
yeah, this was almost out of a sign. I think it's the 11th August 2018. It was Saturday evening, and you know, almost 2 hours. You almost had $9 million of cash, which was sorry, $11 million of cash, which was withdrawn across 28 countries in a
Wow.
span of 2 hours, physically from ATMs, and these were
Oh,
all
wow.
using debit of this bank. Now that's not the cool thing. The cool thing there was that the hackers had such a sophisticated access to the ATM network, to the switch, etc., etc., where for those 2 hours, you could just punch in the debit card of the bank and withdraw money, and the money will not get deducted in your account.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was Saturday evening. They stole around $11 million in cash, around 85 crore rupees uh, in cash. And imagine this, if you have to do a call for 2 hours with people in 28 countries, you can imagine how difficult it will be to set up. And you actually had a real fraud happening in 28 countries, and nobody's caught even today. Now it doesn't end there. This was Saturday evening. The bank couldn't detect it. It was one of the card companies which called the bank saying that, look, we're suddenly seeing a spike in terms of the cash which is being withdrawn. They immediately blocked all the cards and things around that. That was Saturday evening. Sunday, everybody came to the office, and it was a war room, and what's going on, etc., etc. Monday morning, they suffered a second hack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they suffered a second hack. This time it was a Swift system which got hacked. and they had around 1.4, 1.5 million dollars transferred to a bank account in Hong Kong, and that also happened.
Wow.
In total,
Okay.
around $500,000 of cash lost. This was a bank called Cosmos Bank, and it's a fairly popular bank, especially in the, it's a cooperative bank. So yeah, it's just unfortunate. And
Okay.
the number of
So
people, zero.
so that's the crime side of it, right? Like this kind of money, and obviously people using hacking for all the wrong reasons. Is there a side from, from policing or from the legal aspect where you've seen uh, the police using hacking to find criminals? Can you share a case like that where there's a positive implication of cybersecurity?
Yeah, so there's a very popular concept, Vibha, called offensive security,
Okay.
where you're not using security only to defend yourself. You're actually going ahead and offensively hacking your target organizations or somebody who's trying to hack you, etc., and get things done on that side. So it's a pretty popular practice. In fact, there's this report called the Mandiant report, which happened a few years back, which very clearly said that it actually shot videos of full-time hackers which are employed by the Chinese government with the only and only objective of going ahead and infiltrating data of various nations that China is engaged with. So the point I'm making there is that there's a lot which goes on. Uh,
Hmm.
it just
There's a lot that goes. Okay.
yeah, that's there. So
Okay, cool. Let's shift gears back to Lucidius. So you started the company straight out of college. Walk us through the trajectory, like how did it start? What sort of clients were you dealing with initially? And how did you sort of work your way through building the client portfolio? For entrepreneurs in general, what's the journey look like?
um, I started this company back when I was in college, in my final year of engineering. So it is still my first job that I'm at. We, you know, we were always focused on large enterprise customers. We never went to the small and medium scale customers because the awareness of cybersecurity was very limited always, and the spend has been limited when you go to smaller
Sure.
customers. I think my first customer was Tata Sky. I still remember
Oh,
that.
wow. Okay.
In fact, they continue to be a very good customer of ours. Um, and we've been working with them quite a lot. And over the years, uh, we then of course had many large banks, large airports, large insurance companies, large e-commerce companies. Uh, I mean, the thing about acquiring clients in cybersecurity, because you're in the business of trust, it's really about how do you go ahead and provide some really good services. Because when you provide some good services, generally word of mouth, you're in the business of trust. And trust doesn't come by seeing an advertisement, it doesn't come by hearing a webinar. It comes by hearing one of your peers say, you know what, these guys really are good and you must try them. So that is something which is you know is a very critical piece, and we absolutely go ahead and make sure that the quality of what we deliver, both as services and the product that we've got, is top in class. And that's what has really attracted the largest Fortune 500 companies, not just in India but around the world,
Um,
which now. Vibha, are you there?
Saket, losing you a little bit here.
Vibha, are you there?
Yeah, now I can see you. Yes.
Okay. I think I just have a battery thing. Let me just plug this in also. Yeah, can you hear me? Vibha, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
now yes.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you. The visual has gone a little bit hazy.
Okay. I think it'll just come back. That's fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, so you
I
you
can
were
see you,
talking
I can hear you. It's all good.
okay, awesome. So you were talking a bit about the client acquisition aspect, right? And how sort of word of mouth and an endorsement from a peer company will sort of establish that trust. But I want to understand right at the start, when you first started out, what sort of gap in the market did you identify and say that, hey, companies aren't offering this sort of service, and I can go up to a Tata Sky and offer this sort of service? What does that gap identification process look like?
Well, the thing was simple. I remember in 2012, there were some very big breaches. LinkedIn had got breached, Yahoo had got breached, and some really big companies were getting breached. I thought to myself, and with my co-founders, we thought that, look, there are a lot of cybersecurity companies. There is no doubts on that. But even after having so many cybersecurity companies, there are so many breaches in the largest of the companies around the world. Now, look, on one side, you've got a lot of companies of cybersecurity. On the other side, there are a lot of breaches. Both cannot coexist together, right?
Sure.
There has to be something missing out there. So we jumped into it and we said, you know what? There has to be some problem or some area which is not being addressed, which we want to address. And that's where vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, finding the flaws, and now even quantifying it in telling that, look, this is how secure you are in a scale of 0 to 5 comes into the picture. And that's what most of our customers, whether it was Tata Sky or so many after that, went ahead and liked about us, because not only did we come and say, look, this is what we do, this is our approach, which is unique. We got some of the top skilled people. I mean, I think we were one of the, in my limited knowledge, probably the only company that I know of in the world where there's one of the most difficult examinations in the world called OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional. And I have anybody who is a part of my services team, one of the things
Is
that
certified?
we make them do by default is OSCP certified, because if you're not OSCP certified, we ask you to leave in a couple of quarters. So that just took the quality of people really high. And I can tell you that we have some of the most incredible security analysts on the planet which now work with us. And that's the reason why the output of what we produce is generally pretty awesome. And then we take it from there.
Okay, so you got some of the smartest brains on the planet to come work with you. You did a bit of need assessment. What do you offer right now in terms of a solution that you feel is different from what your competitors or peers are offering, or is it not different and it's just the way it's delivered? Which is what makes it different. So is it a unique service proposition or is it a unique delivery proposition?
Well, it started by being a unique delivery proposition because there were companies which were doing vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. However, when we started doing that with a lot of companies, Vibha, we figured out a need which was very, very unique and not being answered. If I ask you a very simple question, if I asked you how secured is your cell phone right now, you don't have an objective answer. If I asked you how much battery do you have on your cell phone, you have an objective real-time answer that it's 63%.
Absolutely.
So that's the need that we identified around 3 to 4 years back. And we strategically pivoted from being a pure services company into becoming a platforms and product company. We still have our services arm, but that's like a wrapper around what our product is. And that is obviously extremely scalable with what and how things are.
Okay, awesome. Can we talk a little bit about your funding journey, if you don't mind? Like, at what point did you think you wanted to go out and raise money? How does one go about that process of valuing your company? If you could just share for the entrepreneurs on in the chat, like how does the whole valuation journey? How did it pan out for you?
So I think when I started building the company, we were bootstrapped. And we were bootstrapped for the first 4 or 5 years. It was literally friends and family who put in the initial checks. And, it was just friends and family that we started the company with. We were doing very well. We were actually doing millions of dollars in revenue with a team of like 22, 23 people, right? Because it was a small boutique consultancy and advisory and services company, like, 4 years back and things around that. And we were growing pretty fast. But we took a strategic call that, look, we can be doing this, and we were profitable and all of those things. But we said, look, we don't want to be doing this forever. What we want to do is really go out there and build something which is truly scalable and answering need, as you asked the right question, that not just from the way we deliver something, but what we deliver also.
Sure.
And that's where the whole idea of coming out with a new product, which can quantify the cyber risk you're sitting on,
Sure.
came into the picture. When we did that, Vibha, look, my only experience had been to run a services company. I did not know how to run a products company. So I went out to the first few angel investors and simply requested them, look, I don't know how to build a product. And these people were like very, very senior product people. I still remember my first check I ever got was from Anand Chandrasekharan. Anand was a Stanford grad, sold his first startup, then was the director of products with Yahoo. He was the chief product officer for Wink, which is a mobile app, the Airtel mobile app. Then he was the chief product officer of Snapdeal. And I still remember going to his office in Snapdeal, pitching to him, look, this is what we do, this is how things are. I was, of course, pitching him to sell to Snapdeal also. So that didn't happen, but clearly he got sold, and he was an incredible product guy. So more than money, what I wanted was to get people who can guide me on how do you build product.
Right. Sure.
And at that time, he was at a $1 million plus CTC, where I was like, look, I can't afford you. I can't have you in my team. So he said, Saket, I know you can't afford me. Why don't you take a small check from me, where I become a stakeholder in your organization, and then I'm happy to help you, as an advisor. So took a small check and made him a part of the family, and went from there. Your question around valuation, Vibha, valuation, the simple answer to valuation of early stage companies. Later stage, there are too many multipliers, too many proven data points that if you're a company in this sector, which will go into public,
have sort of comparables and peers.
You have your revenues multiplier of 5, 10, 20, 1.5, whatever, depending on the industry you belong to. But if you're an early stage company, what is the valuation of your company? The answer is it lies on the eyes of the valuer. It's really that simple, right? I mean, you have to there are two things which has to be right here. The first thing has to be, how big can you think and you dream?
Right.
Do you think that this can become I still remember this story where, the story about John Doerr and Larry Page. John Doerr was the person who wrote the first check to Google of, I think, $10 or $11 million, right? And it was from Kleiner Perkins, and there's no looking back, right? I still remember when John Doerr asked Larry Page that, what do you think, how big can Google become? And Larry Page said $10 billion. So John Doerr said, okay, $10 billion in market cap will translate into what? Are you talking like $1 billion in revenue or $500 million in revenue? So Larry Page says, no, I meant $10 billion in revenue.
Right.
And in his book, which is called Measure What Matters, he says, my eyes popped. He said that, look, those were crazy numbers for a startup which was doing zero revenue.
Right.
But the fact that I had a founder in front of me which
who
could
dreamt
dream that big, right? That there is no this thing. I mean, that was awesome.
Okay.
So you need two people going right. One, the person, how big you think this can become. Sure. And the second, you also need a John Doerr on the other side, who, when you tell that, when you say $10 billion in revenue, doesn't think that you're smoking something and coming up, but actually has the conviction to do his mental maths and says, okay, he's saying 10 billion. Even if I think it's going to be $2 billion, I'll still make so much money. And, let me cut a $10 million check for this guy and then back him in true sense. So truly, it's about the, this thing. And then, that's where it goes.
It's about the dreamers. Huh? You got to dream big, think big. Okay, cool. So clearly you thought big back then. You're saying 4 or 5 years ago, is right, when you raised your first sort of official check from
3 years back.
3 years back. Wow. Okay. And thereafter, have you raised more funding? Have you had like an official Series A, B, C?
Yeah, we raised Series A. In total, we've raised $14 million.
Okay,
And
wow.
we are actually India's highest valued cybersecurity startup.
Oh, wow. Okay, congratulations on that one. Can we talk a little bit about the team? You know, when you started off, you said you had like a co-founder, etc. And you know, how did you scale the team? What do you look for when you're finding people? What is your sort of recruitment metrics that you sort of have imbibed at your organization?
Yeah, so Vibha, there's this very famous saying which I absolutely love when it comes to team building. It says, a startup is the people it hires and not the plans it makes.
Hmm.
Because according to plans, every startup is $1 trillion company maybe. But,
Sure,
uh, but rubber hits the road with the kind of team that you've got in place, right?
sure,
So I would say that, you know, one of our 7 core values, one of them is hire and build the absolute best teams, because team is where it really makes all the difference. Now, what have we been following to make sure that, we get the right people? Uh, well, the first thing, there are 2 types of people, right? One, we now have over like 210, 220 people distributed between the United States, India, Singapore, and uh, the people who report to me, right? In general, my rule with them is that I like people who report into me, who I would not mind reporting to.
sure. Wow, I like
Remember,
that. That's a great one. That's a
I'm a
great
first
one.
time founder, right? I'm a first time
Yeah,
founder. The average age of people who report to me is between 45 to 55 years of age.
sure,
They all come with 20 to 25 years of experience in the industry of what needs to be done, and more importantly, what doesn't need to be done.
sure.
When you recruit people who you can treat as partners and frankly learn from them a lot of stuff which they know how things work, and and give them that space where they can work, uh, and then put that together, I think you're on to something which can work out for the long term in a pretty good way. As far as people on ground which are, I'm a very freshers heavy organization also.
Okay.
Every year we take like between 20 to 25 freshers. With freshers, there are a couple of key attributes that I look at. And again, I know that you'll have quite a few young people listening to this. So the first thing which I always like, understanding is, what is the proudest thing that a person has done in their life when they're very young.
Mm-hmm.
The worst answer you can give is, I've never had a proud moment in my life.
Sure.
Because if you spent like 20 years between your college, between your school, between everything that you do, what is the kind of proud moment that you've got, right? And that also tells me the barometer, right? Somebody saying, and by the way, the right answer is, what I would look forward in that answer is, where can I find some glimpses of tasting pinnacle. So if
Sure.
somebody says that, look, I'm a national chess player, I played national table tennis, right? I did gymnastics and I'm a gold medalist there.
Right.
Or I was the head boy of my school or the
Have
president of
you
my
tasted
college.
success? Okay.
Have you tasted what does it feel like to be on the
Take
top?
to. And what it
I
takes to
don't
get
care.
there, probably, huh?
Exactly, right? And I don't care where. It can be
Hmm.
academics, it can be athletics, it can be gymnastics. I don't give a damn where. The more
Sure.
important thing is, have you, at some point in your life, felt what does it feel like to be number one? And do you have a
Sure.
taste for that? So that's number one. Number two, I always look at, out of 3 things that you asked, the number 2 thing which I look for is, is a person scared of hard work? So when I ask, it's a simple question, on a scale of 0 to 10, how hardworking are you, right? Invariably, the smarter people will say, I'm 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, because I believe in
Sure.
smart work. Well, that's a very, very wrong answer, because if you're smart and you can couple it with a 10 out of 10 hard work, then you're going to create magic, right? Because
Sure.
I don't know one incredible rock star which has not been immersing themselves 24 hours a day, especially when you're young. You see, when you have a family, when you have people to take care of, it's a different, you know, you have to give time to your kids, to your spouse,
Sure.
etc., etc., and that becomes different. But when you're when you're young, I mean, that, you know, that there's that saying, right, that Arjun looks at the eyes of the bird where he's trying to
Sure.
shoot, right? That's how it needs to be. And then whatever
That
it takes,
level
it
of
can be 20,
focus.
and it can take 24 hours a day, it can take 7 days a week. You don't give a damn till the time you actually reach that focus. So the
Sure.
first becomes, have you tasted that high in your life success? The second
Mm-hmm.
is, how hardworking are you? And the third thing which I really look at is the set of values that a person imbibes. That, you know, how much does he care about his family, his peers, his surroundings? You know, how kind is the person? That one is actually a tricky one to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, we've been able to come out with ways in which, not accurately, but uh, little accurately, you can, you know, judge that, you know, what is the right kind of attitude.
What's the question you asked to get to values?
Well, there's not one. There's actually a full section of personal profiling that we make everybody do, Vibha.
Okay.
Since you asked this question, because it's going to be longer, so I thought I'll skip it. But since you asked this question, you know, I'll give you. So these are all psychological tricks
Sure.
uh, where you actually find out a lot about a person. So we ask questions like, you know, how often do you cry, and
Wow.
when was the
Okay.
last time that you cried? We ask, and when somebody says that I don't cry, uh, it is not a very good indicator in terms of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, their psychological, you know, this thing, right? I mean, you got to be at a place where now, you know, everybody can speak about mental well-being, blah blah blah. So that's there. Then there are also things like, you know, what's your favorite music, right? The If you take the top 5 songs that a person likes listening to, and you take the beats per minute of each song, and you find the average of that, you can actually find out the frequency at a person actually vibrates, or
Oh my God.
you know, what and how things are, right? uh,
I hope
then
nobody from your team is analyzing this interview because I'm so scared now. Firstly, I hope the data on my phone is secure. I hope they haven't been measuring the frequency with which I've been asking the questions or responding. I mean, this is just very, 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 very next level and quite amazing. I have a comment here from Naina Katyal who says, good to know you're changing the ways to hire employees. Superb. Pooja Chopra says, hi, Saket, good to see you here. Aki, who says, my son has done cybersecurity in Bombay. What further courses should he take? He's 16. I think Aki, Saket answered that in terms of what he's actually looking for. Saket, you haven't mentioned any hard skills. You know, courses, degrees, the actual hard skills. How much of that are you looking for when you're hiring?
mm, so, you know, first, I don't understand the difference between hard skills and soft skills. So I'll explain you why I'm saying that. I know
Okay, sure.
probably, you know, again, you're the expert there, Vibha, when it comes to skills and education. I'm not.
Sure,
The reason
sure,
I'm saying that is, right, I have been very fortunate. I mean, I run a company with more than 200 people. Most of them are very young. The average
sure.
age is around, you know, 26, 27, right? So I get a lot of young freshers. And, you know, your thing is Reach IB, right? I mean, we actually work with MIT where we do sponsored research out there. As a startup,
Sure.
we're incubated from IIT Bombay and things around that.
Right.
So we've been very fortunate to actually see some incredibly smart, young, bright people. And, you know, enable some of their careers, and at the same time seen some incredible careers happen in front of us also. The reason I give that background before answering that question is that, and this is not specific to cybersecurity, uh, I think, you know, the important thing is not, uh, it's not like which degrees, which, you know, which certifications, etc., 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 right? The important thing is, it's not important of what you stick. The important thing is you stick. And I'll
Sure.
explain the difference between the two, right? You see, let's take cybersecurity as an example, because obviously that's my area where I know, you know, I know a little there. So when you talk about cybersecurity, right, I mean, it's not about certification, right? Really getting to the bottom. like to the absolute ground zero of exactly what does it take for a hacker to get inside, get the access, do lateral movements, and from there go down from there. Like really getting to the nuts and bolts of understanding computer science. Not for the sake that tomorrow I'll have a great job or tomorrow I'll do a ABCDEFG, but because you enjoy doing that so much, where if you're like doing that for 20, 21, 22 hours a day, you don't know that where time went away, right? When you do
So
that,
you're looking at the passion component. Okay.
That's the only component that matters, in my view, for a young person. And
Okay,
if
great.
you do anything which is not in that line, you're actually doing something against the individual.
Sure. Okay. That's very sort of ikigai and that sort of mindset. And thanks for sharing, Aki boy. I hope that answered your question. Quick question from Sudha Sharma, who says, do you also work with Indian internal agencies on national security? Are you doing any sort of national security work, Saket? Then you don't have to tell us what a yes/no answer would do, depending on your sort of privacy controls there.
Yes, we do.
Okay, are you allowed to share anything beyond that?
No,
maybe just a flavor of no, not really.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of stuff that the government internally requires, both for insider threats and with threats from outside. And there are things that we go to the point where we help the government. In fact, something that I can share publicly, the government of India launched something called BHEEM that some of you might be using. We've been doing its end-to-end security. During its launch, we did it. We did for many, many years after that. So that's something that was a government of India thing. On the national security side, there are certain things that, time and again, we keep advising, but that's where we are. That's all I can share.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing, Sudha. I hope that answered your question. I'm going to read out a comment from one of your team members. Shweta Zephyr says, Saket is the kind of boss who makes you work and makes you love it while you do it. That's because he loves his work with that much passion. Oh, that's very sweet, Shweta. Thank you for sharing that comment. Sudha Sharma, Safe City under Nirbhaya Act. Are you trying to ask if he's helping with that? I don't know, Saket, if you want to comment quickly. Okay, no, he says not involved. Okay. Saket, what is it looking like for the company? Like, what's the next sort of, what's on your mind? The next 5 years, 10 years? You went from services to product. You raised sort of Series A money. You have a team of 200 people across, 4 different geographies. What is on the blueprint for the company for the next 5 years?
Well, the space where we are at, Vibha, we are actually, it's a brand new vertical in cybersecurity. It's not an antivirus, it's not a firewall, it's not something which is, already out there and we're trying to make it slightly better. We're building think of us as the first antivirus. Think of us as the first firewall that actually came in. That's the place where we are, where we are going when you talk about a brand new vertical in cybersecurity. How big can it be? Well, the short answer, very big, because when you start a brand new vertical, the total addressable market for that is actually pretty high. And that's something which is very, very exciting. In the next 5 years, the mission statement of the company is we want to become the global de facto industry standard to measure and mitigate cyber risks. So the way you have a credit score, a CIBIL score, or a Moody's score, which is for your credit ratings. We'll have scores for individuals.
You want to quantify.
Companies,
okay, fine.
And we want to become the de facto standard for cybersecurity. So that's what we are thinking, Vibha.
Wow. Okay. Most definitely, sky's the limit, and fortunately, there are no dragons here to break down that wall. So that wall's going to keep extending. Let's talk. Last question to you, Saket. We're running out of time. Forbes 30 under 30, 40 under 40 by Fortune. I mean, you pretty much have every accolade out there for young people in our country. Personally, for you, where do you want to be? 5, 7, 10 years out. What's sort of your drive? What drives you, and where do you want to take that drive to?
Vibha, when you love dancing and you're dancing like 20 hours a day, you don't need a drive to make you dance. It's like if somebody pays you for that, you feel, oh, wow, I'm also getting paid. If somebody doesn't pay you, you don't care. The reason I brought that up is what I do. I mean, I am having a blast of a time right now. Where do I want to be in 5 years? Nowhere. This is exactly where I want to be, where I am.
You still want to stay on the dance floor?
Absolutely. And that is all I care about. That as long as I'm, having fun and I'm dancing, it looks like I should be, because I've been doing that for many years now.
Sure.
So the dance floor is where I see myself 5 or 50 years down the lane. And the forms of dancing might keep changing.
Sure.
But having fun in what I'm doing is all I care about. So therefore, there's nowhere to go. And when there's nowhere to go, you don't need a drive for anything.
Okay, awesome. Saket, I hope the music never stops and you keep dancing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. The conversation has been so authentic. And, I love how every time you sort of balanced learning the right thing to do along with learning the wrong thing to do, knowing what's going well for you and also understanding what's not working for you. I'm going to take away that balanced approach from this conversation and a lot more. So thank you once again for joining. And it was an amazing conversation. I'm going to replay it and take away a lot more. Guys, please do follow Saket Modi and Lucidius on Instagram, and stay tuned to this man's journey, because he's most definitely going places. So thank you, Saket, so much. Getting a compliment here saying by far the best guest, Saket. And I know the kind of guests we've had. So being the youngest, getting that compliment is amazing. P.R. Sharma says very insightful. Awesome, Saket. I look forward to connecting with you very soon. Thank you so much.
Vibha, thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you everybody for spending the hour with me. I hope you found it insightful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that was Saket Modi closing episode 29 of House of Experts. Stay tuned.